Hello, everyone, and welcome to After the Adventure, the after show for the Older and Dumber D&D campaign through Coralthea. This is where we'll debrief after sessions, address fan questions, dig deep into the minds of our players and their characters, and speculate on what's to come. I'm your host, Coralthea's illustrious Lorekeeper, Kenzie, and thank you for tuning in to our first episode. We're so glad you're here. Tonight's going to run a little bit differently, as we have 8 sessions of adventure to catch up on, so without further ado, let's meet our heroes. First, we have the weaver of our tale, our magnanimous dungeon master, Hunter, voice of Hunter Taylor.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
Now, let's meet our players. His bard, RaRa Chiro, is the epitome of the phrase, the show must go on, and he never underestimates the power of a well-timed slurp. It's Joey.
Hello, everybody.
Stoic and aloof, his elven archaeologist, Kayth Felmor, does his best to keep this rowdy group in line. We've got Carter.
That's me.
She's got beauty, she's got class, her druid, Moz Greywind, can kick your ass. It's May.
Oh, let's go!
Gosh, that's me!
Hunter, you might be out of the job.
Alright, in this godless land, pyromania is pretty much the same as faith, and his artificer, Fizziwick Fizzbang, has enough for all of us. It's David.
Yo, I'm here. Let's answer some questions.
Now that we've met our storied adventurers, let's go over what's happened so far. So in our first 8 sessions, this party has been centered in the city of Tapas, in the beautiful month of Penner, where spring is slowly turning into summer, and they've pretty much consistently spent their time helping out others. They've rescued wayward fishermen. They've assisted Brother Alric in the temple and gained his Brother Alric, Brother whatever, and earned his friendship. And they've had many encounters with the Salt Blades and the Shattered Coin and other criminal organizations here in Tapas. Are there any limits to how many ways we can say their names wrong? We'll find out. We've debated the existence of owl bears and bear owls alike. And currently, they've headed off to the dark woods to conquer some undead as far as our last session. So let's dive into some questions. All right, after session 1, the party really turned their focus inland. What might we have expected if they chose to investigate more into the mysterious island that was shown to them by Garrett, the rescued fisherman, and they set their sights seaward?
Death.
May might not be wrong, is that death was probably very... I mean, I tried to push it as much forward as possible that it's dangerous. Probably not something you should do right now without straight up saying it. But had they chosen to go out to the islands instead of taking on more quests, I'm sure we would have gotten somewhere. It would have probably been hard for them. But, the whole world is a sandbox for them to choose what they want to do. Obviously, as the DM, I try to wrangle as much towards the plot as I can without railroading. But if they had gone out there, we definitely would have a completely different adventure right now. And in my honest opinion, probably would have had an early player character death, I think, if they went out towards the island instead of staying inland. That's my opinion, but I think probably would have happened.
Hunter, what's your approach to the different NPCs and their conversations, how they're interacting with the party? Do you kind of have a set idea of how people are going to respond to the party members, or do you let your players lead the way and just kind of follow their lead?
That's a good question. So, I think it's a little bit of both. So there's NPCs that have been created for months and months, right? Like there's NPCs that have been in Tapas and are a part of the main story that already exists. These are people that have ingrained, knowledge of the area and have been there for a long time and are important to whatever's going on. But then there's the NPCs that, like, before the session, not before the session, but like, they went into the dark woods. I need to make these random NPCs that are going to be in the forest. And when it comes to the ones that are made sort of a day or a week before, those NPCs I just have like a little image of what I want, but I very much wait for them to talk and say things to me. and then create that character as I interact with them. Like Snagglejaw, Blink Blink,
Hated that
Flop Snoot, Flop Snoot, and Hobbletoes. Like, I knew that I wanted 4 goblins, so I had 4 goblins. I knew I wanted all of them to be weirdly named based on some sort of feature, and that was like all I went in with. Well, obviously their thing of how they needed to, find stuff for the scaly ones, whatever, blah blah blah. But how they would react to the party, I literally just kept going with the flow. So, he's sneaking in, and I was like, all right, I have to pick something. One of them sneaking in to steal stuff. This has to happen. He's sneaking in, and then bops him on the head, right? But it doesn't kill him. So I'm thinking, okay, what's this goblin going to do after he just got hit right upside the head? All right, let's start pleading for my life. And then as I started talking to them, and I knew that there was 3 more goblins that needed to show up, and I was like, okay, it's not going great for this goblin. He's not really winning them over. I think I have to get weird with the other characters. So I brought in the other 3 goblins, and I was like, these guys are just weirdos. Let me start making funny noises or funny voices and see if they start to warm up to them. And they kind of did a little bit, except for Kayth, who was like, you're all a bunch of filthy little goblins. So yeah, when it comes to the NPCs, there's the ones that are really fleshed out that are like, those are like, I don't want to call them my children. They're just like my pawns. And then there's the ones that are like, oh, all right, I got to throw this together, give an idea, let them sort of talk to me, and I'll figure out the characters I improv. But I would say like the improv NPCs are maybe like 30% of the NPCs I make, and the other 70% are the ones that have already been made and fleshed out. Yeah. Does that answer the question?
That's way high. Yeah, that's a way higher number than I would have guessed.
It could
Considering
change.
how many of them I don't see in Roll20, I guess it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joey, you're next because RaRa had me in tears during the last session.
RaRa had me in tears during the last session.
I was bawling, just full breakdown tears in the middle of the office. Look, over the last few sessions, we've seen RaRa's kind of abrasive shell melt away a bit. What do you think we can expect as she begins to show more of herself and her true heart to the party?
So I think this last session was a big wake-up call for RaRa. Like, everything Kayth's been saying is sort of sinking in as she's sitting there with her fucking broken ribs, not being able to breathe. That she really doesn't know what's going on. So there's really an opportunity there for her to bond with him. There's the Tempest Fair coming up. I think that's going to be big for her because it's going to give her the opportunity to do what she really wants to do, which is perform, and spend time with these people that she's starting to open up to and consider as friends. We're going to get into some stuff, I think, in the next session that's really going to show what she went through and why she hasn't been able to open up. Which I think is going to be big going forward with her interactions with the party. So,
yeah, I'm looking forward to that. There was definitely some bits and pieces that I caught you dropping that were really deep, just kind of in regular conversation. So getting to see her really open up and talk about that baggage, I'm looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where that goes. I was actually talking to Hunter today about moving into my subclass into level 3 and what that's going to be. And I want to do some flashbacks to sort of show some of her background in a little more depth. So I think that'll be interesting to show because there is like some really painful stuff in her past. And that's really exploring, like when I made the character, I was like, okay, I want to explore what it means for these like kids that are in Hollywood that have to become child stars and the pressure that's on them. And that was sort of like how I wanted to build the character, and like her family has put all this on her and all this weight. And then there's her instructors that don't really, that are just as abrasive. There's a neat connection that's going to come up with that. So I'm really excited to see how that goes.
Yeah, and I think that, touching kind of on the burden of parents on kids, that, that brings me right to Fizzi, in the shadow of his family.
Yeah.
Fizzi he's pretty easygoing. He's pretty laid back generally. I mean, he's always there. He's ready to fight whenever there's danger. But during the last few encounters, there have been a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
the group has been making it out by the skin of their teeth half the time. How do you think Fizzi's really been feeling in those moments where his friends are going down around him?
He's so that he's definitely cares about them, and they keep getting hurt. The way So I at first thought I was set on how I wanted to evolve this character, but after the last session, Fizzi might be changing his ways. Um, Mostly after our encounter with the 8 foot tall orc. That that was that was a little tough on Fizzi.
Mhm.
Like two of his friends, his new friends, almost died.
Yeah,
Uh,
in just as many swings. That was
yeah,
definitely a scary
yeah,
encounter.
yeah, and so I mean, Fizzi's never inherently himself killed someone, but like the Earthshaker cannon definitely killed an ass ton of pirates. Um, and that also the way that when it was he was assault blades, like he's gonna be changed. He's gonna be evolving a little bit.
I'm looking forward to seeing that. And also, he hasn't really had a ton of opportunity so far to showcase, his crafting abilities, his artificer skills. Like,
Yeah,
he's been kind of taking a back seat, letting everyone else lead. I'm excited to see him come to the forefront and see what he can pull off.
yeah.
Some explosions, hopefully.
I'm excited to have Fizzi start building stuff. Especially now that we're getting into some good levels, when Fizzi can really start to showcase everything that he wants to do.
Now that Hunter's done hoarding XP.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Let the bang.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Please, Hunter, please give us 16 experience points. Oh, that was funny.
May, you're in the hot seat.
Get her.
So, I have a great question for her based
Get
on
her.
last session.
Okay.
It's a nice one. Moss is exuberant, she's friendly, almost to a fault sometimes, but since she learned about the elves' history, I feel like she's been a bit cold to Kayth. Do you think her trust in him can be restored after last session?
See, it's difficult because she's lived in one place so far removed from everything that this is all she's ever known. She's never heard about any of this, none of the wars, none of the millions of deaths. So it's hard after realizing that there's first of all a whole other world out there beyond where she grew up, and they hate elves. Elves are bad. And then she's with this elf and she's seeing him kill things, and it's like, are elves bad? Is this the reason that I'm bad? Is this the reason that I feel the way I do? Is it because deep down I'm half elf and I'm bad? But I think that she has a lot of trust in Kayth, and she sees him as a mentor. And I think that, of course, the trust is going to be restored, but she's 19. It's not going to be easy. What do you know at
Yeah.
19? Nothing. All you do, you think you're right, and that's it. So I think that it's going to take a little bit, but I think that she'll get there.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see her mature here.
Mhm.
And actually, most of the characters, kind of going through this coming of age, growing up, growing pains, period.
Two youngins and two. So two of the characters have been through a good portion of the wars or bad things that have happened in Coralthea. One of them almost, all the way back to the Noseg War, and the other one just at the butt end of it. But the other two literally were born in a time of peace when the champions of Coralthea made it not be bad. Like, and then
Big
the
ups,
whole-
champions of Coralthea.
Champions of Coralthea.
Yeah, you guys go.
Not be bad.
The champions of Coralthea, created a new world for Coralthea, a world that started to bring itself out of the ways of the three empires and start to create these new regions of independence. But yeah, I mean, two of the characters were born in a time that, like, almost all of that's not been forgotten, but it's like, yeah, what do we have to worry about?
That's over and done with.
Things
Yeah.
are cool now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what we think. But yeah, it's interesting to have a character like May who it's really cool too, because May is able to play Moss up in this I don't know what the world has because, so obviously we already know two of the players, Carter and Joey, have been in the world of Coralthea for years. We've been playing in this campaign forever, and this is technically the next era of campaigns after the first campaigns have created what is now. And May doesn't know any of that happened, and she happens to be playing a character that would make sense that she doesn't know any of that stuff. So it's fun to watch her learn things as Moss and as May at the same time. So it's cool.
It's the driving force for my character, I think, because it enables me as a player to ask questions and learn, which, like, at the first campaign, I didn't do at all. But now, like, in this campaign, I'm asking questions, I'm learning, I'm driving the narrative, like, my story, and then it feels good. It's a nice change.
I like Moss. She keeps me on my toes. I don't know. It's just there's something about her that you never know which way the conversation's going to go when you get talking, and I love it. I love it. You drag information out of everyone all the time.
It's definitely like that's kind of like I wanted to go with RaRa, just being so. I had to make her extremely sheltered so that I could just play her as a character that doesn't know anything.
Right.
Having a tremendous amount of like knowledge, because I had to play two characters in campaign 1, so I got to experience the world from two different perspectives in campaign 1. So really, like, coming into this, I was like, I need to make a character that I can just play that's a blank slate. Like, she's got her own baggage, but she doesn't know anything about the world at large. Like, she's been to the dance school, she's been to her house, she's been under the stairs like Harry Potter. She knows nothing about the outside world. She chooses to leave, and it's all new experiences for her. So it's been, and I knew I had to do that to sort of, if I'm playing a young character, and having all of this world knowledge, I need to approach it in a different way so that I can sort of experience Coralthea from a fresh lens.
Yeah, that's tricky though. It's hard to not know things.
Right.
Yeah, to try to wipe them from your mind as you're going through, especially because you guys are improvising, I mean, you're just talking in character on the spot, live.
Yep.
I don't know. That's crazy. I can't believe you guys can do it. I don't think I could. Carter, I've got a question for you, but honestly, this is really kind of bringing me. I might save it for later because this is really bringing me up to the last session 8. It was supercharged this week. Like, the emotions were high, in character, out of character, but there was tears, there was anger. It was crazy. What were you guys feeling at the end of Wednesday's session?
This was the canon event in the party. So this is like, I feel like there's always that point in a D&D party where it's like, oh, what are we doing? What's going on? What is it? Are we a party? Is this a party? We just got our face kicked in. What are we? We have to, set expectations for the relationship. That's what needs to happen.
Communication is key.
I mean, Hunter and May and I were on till probably almost 1 o'clock.
It was almost 2.
Yeah, decompressing after that. And just like chatting about the session because, we have our own theories. We have our own things to talk about. Like, we want to talk about the character reactions. But literally, we were there for almost another 2 or 3 hours just chatting afterwards, trying to, like, come down from that. So,
and Fizzi, he seems like he's got a fire in his belly. Like, I did see kind of that final straw moment, as he was talking to Kayth, a huge shift in his personality. He's been pretty quiet, and he just went complete 180.
So, being with 3 other brothers, kind of taking care of yourself, he kind of, watches and observes, And when there's that an opportunity like that, he'll take it. And the fact that he like switched from always doing non-lethal to be like, yeah, if it comes to it, I will kill somebody to help keep you safe. Like that to Fizzi means that he feels like the party is, on equal terms with his actual family. In only this short amount of time, like he's willing to kill someone to help protect them.
Yeah, it
Um,
definitely feels like cementing these relationships is happening here. Even as, Kayth separated himself, took a breather, which
Yeah.
was heartbreaking to watch. Carter, thank you for that. It feels like this is their make or break. This is where they are a team and they are bonded, heart and soul, or are
yeah,
they gonna
and
fizzle?
I haven't really said much on Fizzi's backstory, but I mean, he's definitely experienced situations like this, and I feel one of the main things in Fizzi's backstory, he can also relate to this. Um, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
Hunter, you kind of sat back, except for almost killing everybody at the end of the last session. You got to let them kind of take the reins, role play out a lot of the end of last session. What are you thinking about sitting there, knowing you're about to interrupt these conversations with, an 8-foot tall half orc? What does it feel like?
Awesome.
Asshole.
Awesome. No, it's
Feels like God.
That's funny. That's a great question. It's funny because the entire time, so because it's past events now. It's I think this is okay to say without it being too metagamey. Is like, Creed got this
Can you
job.
me
Well,
higher?
I don't want to say job. He got this order.
I get one.
Probably literally like maybe the next day, or maybe 2 days, but basically after those salt blades had been killed and they went back to the boss and said what happened and who did it. It was immediate. Okay, you know what you need to do, Creed. You need to take care of this. This is what you're built for. Go get our recompense and so they sent out Creed, and that's what Creed does. And Creed is very, he's been doing this for many, many, many years, and he very much like stalks and waits. He very much stalks and waits. And the instant that these guys went out of the city, he was like, "All right, this is my chance." And he'd been following them for a little while, but at a very far distance because he has things that can make it so he can find you where he needs to. And he sort of kept that distance. And when they went into the dark woods, his first thought was, okay, well, the dark woods is a little dangerous. I'll just wait to see if they come back. If they don't, I'll go in and try and search for what's left of them. But you guys came out. And when you did, that's when I knew I needed to come out, because, you were another day away from the city. So this is the last chance to intervene, and I knew that I needed to. But then you guys started having like really good conversation with Dagon, and I'm like, oh, I have to interrupt at some point. I gotta find a good spot. And there was one moment where it was like RaRa and Fizzi were talking, and I was like, okay, this is it. But then they brought Dagon back into the conversation, and then Moss started talking too, and I was like, no, I like this. I'm gonna wait. So there's the part of me that knows Creed has to come in. This has to happen. And then there's the other part of me that goes, oh, but it's so interesting. I don't want to stop them. So I have to wait for the moment where like the interesting dialogue stops and it's like nonsense dialogue. And that's when I'm like, okay, now it's time. So that's sort of what's going through my head. And then when there's the moments that they're, so there's the after, right? Where like you said, I just let them sort of run and they did a bunch of RP, which was fantastic and it was great. Mm-hmm. During those moments, I am listening, being like, oh, you're right. Like I'm sad and I'm listening to them, but at the same time, I'm also having to be like, from what they're saying, what decisions are they going to do next? What do I have to prepare for? Crying on the keyboard. I can't concentrate. So yeah, it's because there's the part of me that wants to enjoy it and listen to it, but there's the other part of me that's like, Hunter, you better start fucking thinking about what you're supposed to do next, because if you don't, then nothing's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So when Kayth and Moss rather visited the magic shop, Kayth had a surprisingly friendly interaction with the shopkeep. And do you think that Kayth is missing the camaraderie that he had during the war? Like, despite the atrocities he was witnessing, despite what was going on, like, do you think he's lonely?
Yeah, I think that Kayth is sort of that person who doesn't know how to have social interactions, but like does crave them in some capacity. I think that's from like he grew up in like a very close-knit family and a military family, and went straight off into like military school and was in the military like as soon as he was of age. And so he always had those like sort of close, really tight knit like relationships where he didn't really need to have like full drawn out conversations, but knew that there was a connection there. So now he's on his, and he's doesn't really like, he's trying to have those, you know? And this is the first elf that has, you know, like, I don't know. And he also loves, you know, artifacts and such. So I think it just sort of fit in.
How do you think he was feeling when Dagon lost it at the sight of him?
I feel like Kate's been traveling outside of the military for a while. He's seen probably a good fair amount of people that have had that same expression at this point. He left the Elven Kingdom close to the end of the hardest war. I think that's where the timeline. I would have to check my notes again. So it's been, and he was mostly in this side of the world, like traveling, like he didn't stay in the Elven Kingdom for reasons. So yeah, I think it was just nice to see a familiar face.
Yeah. How are you guys feeling about when Dagon? I mean, it seemed the party was kind of split down the middle on what to do with him when you encountered him during the last session. What were you thinking? I mean, like, what went through your mind? I mean, Joey, Moss, you guys were. I felt like a little floored, you know, just by encountering him, and then what do we do? I mean, like, what are you thinking in that moment?
Well, RaRa didn't know how to react at first. It wasn't until Kayth was like, listen, this is a bard's job, that she had to try to like figure something out. And that was the whole hug and everything. That was just pure emotion. Like she didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Like she's a sheltered kid from the city who just got told, this is your job, figure it out. And she was just letting emotion run the show. And she felt like, you know, just hugging this kid and letting him cry it out was probably the best route to take in that moment, because she had no way to deal with what he was dealing with, to deal what she was dealing with, to deal with what the party was dealing with. It was overwhelming for her in this situation, and she just went on autopilot.
I think for me, Moss went into this instinctive, like, I want to help this person. Like, that's what my family would have wanted. My family's nurturing. I want to help this person. And then when he pointed at Kayth and was like, it was them. They killed us all the first time. Moss was like, holy fuck. So, like, the biggest thing for me that session was killed by elves the first time, killed by elves the second time. And I think that really struck something within her that like really hammered the nail on the head that holy fuck, like elves are bad.
Yeah, especially with her already kind of being in this state of confusion about it and her identity as an elf also. Yeah, I can see why that was just...
The Conquest era very much was...
Well, this was further back, yeah.
Yeah, yes, where Dagon died, yes. The Conquest era very specifically was the Runesbach Empire felt that they had the manifest destiny to
divine right,
that they were whatever it is, you know, they felt that the world was theirs. They deserved it. So they, you know, plan to conquer all of Coralthea, and they almost did. I mean, they got 2/3 of it. And the whole thing was, if you're in our way, we're gonna take it from you. You know, which is another question of why was their village attacked? If the whole thing of the Conquest era was they did this because they were looking for Aqua-Ado artifacts.
Which brings me
Well,
to the
and-
theory
and-
of the sword.
The theory of the sword.
Right, Hunter?
You gonna share?
Yeah, Joey's got a theory.
So, while we're collecting Dagon and getting ready to leave, he drops the sword in the ground. And RaRa and Dagon are walking towards the cart, and she's like, "Hey, don't you want that?" Dagon turns, he's like, "Oh yeah, I better take that with me." There was no, oh, grab your sword, whatever. There was an instinctual need to grab that and take it. And I think that sword is an artifact. We're going to find out at some point that it is.
My argument to Joey
Make
saying that
sword
was, well, why was he
important.
just going to leave it there in the first place if he knew it was important? Why would he leave it there in the first place? Maybe.
Oh,
he just didn't-
I came up with a totally different meaning watching that scene unfold.
Damn.
So it's interesting that that's where you took it,
I thought he
because
was like his protection was over. Like he didn't need to. Like he could be a kid again or something. That's how I sort of interpreted
it
like,
did feel that way. Yeah, it did feel that way.
What's your theory?
Well, see, the thing is that it felt to me like when he picked that sword back up, he was coming into the party on equal footing with you guys. He's, I'm one of you, I'll fight next to you, kind of
And then didn't.
mentality. He's a scared kid. It's only day
Leaving the
one
den.
for him with this.
Come on.
Then-
Watch us get walloped twice.
You guys got walloped so fast. You didn't even have time to get
I
out of the
wanted to
tent.
be known that I was at the same hit points I started that fight with.
You weren't.
Not
there!
You were in a tree.
I was in
You
a
were-
tree.
You were in a tree. You are.
You
right.
were also watching us die. I have a
New
question
title.
for
I'd buy that
Kenzie. Is that
Oh,
allowed?
Sure.
Ooh.
Yeah.
See why not?
Okay. Well, you obviously know all of our backstories, and you
Does
didn't
she?
really.
May?
Okay. Shh, shh. Don't embarrass me. But you didn't know us as players for the most part. How do you feel as the lore keeper, as we're kind of finding our flow and becoming our characters? Do you have expectations? How do you feel about us?
I have absolutely no expectations, only because this is my first experience watching something like this unfold over a long period of time, instead of just one session, just a glimpse. But so far, you guys are putting on a show. It is so much fun to watch you, and I really feel like this session and last week's session, you guys really fell into your characters in the sense that I could feel like the roleplay was more organic. It was more true to character, and I was getting more of a sense of who each character really is, and what they're trying to say, how they're going to act, than I had before. Definitely getting away from small talk, getting away from kind of superficial conversation, and getting into some deeper role play and some deeper conversations and dialogue here between characters. And it's just been a blast to watch. I am amazed watching this group of people who I don't know, which I feel like I know you now, which is probably a parasocial relationship, to be honest. Right? Until this point, I've never actually been in the same room with you guys.
Yeah.
So it feels like maybe I'm experiencing it how any fan would, tuning in and seeing it. And it's just a great time.
Who do you think's gonna die first?
RaRa likes to start fights.
Very
So,
apparent.
RaRa does
depending
have
on-
a big mouth.
Depending on how she comes out of this last one, it could be RaRa. Well, tonight was a lot of fun. We look forward to seeing you guys at the next After the Adventure episode following next week's session. So with that, Joey, you want to say a few words?
Sure. So if you're interested in actually catching the adventure, the best way to do that is on Twitch. You can sub there, catch up with the VODs, and watch us live on Wednesday nights. If you don't care about watching live, though, we do post everything on YouTube on Saturdays, so you can watch it there. And we do make a ton of other content, which is available on our YouTube channel. So if you just think we're cool guys and want to see some more of that, you can do that on the YouTube as well. And if you want this content to get better and really boost it up, we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/older_and-dumber. You can start supporting us there. It's as low as a cup of coffee every month, only $5 to get started. We put every cent back into what we make. So that's a big help. If you wanna help and make things better, that's the best way to do it. Also, join the Discord. There'll be a link in the description of this video. That's the best place to post your fan art of the campaign, talk about your fan theories, interact with the players, interact with the DM, interact with the Lorekeeper. It's all on the Discord. Join up. That's the best place to do it.
Bye.
Bye.
I don't know about that. Should we redo it?
Sure, one more time.
I'm
Ready?
just kidding. Get out of here.